Hello and welcome everyone to this session of Talking Tech, Women and Girls in ICT. My name is Amna. I am 16-year-old and the founder of Bloomed Foundation, where I design safe innovation spaces for marginalized female adolescents. My work towards the UN SDG number 4 of gender equality and quality education, number 4 and number 5, has been recognized with the Czech Global Student Prize as a 2022 Global Team Leader and also as an international speaker on a mission to change the narrative for girls, reaching 100,000 views globally. Today, I am pleased to be joined by Rebecca, who is the IBM Distinguished Engineer for HyperProtect Crypto Services and Digital Assets on IBM Linux One. Intriguing, right? As well as zAmbassdor captain and computer science student Judith. So, before we begin, I'd like to quickly introduce the Talking Tech series for our listeners live at IBMz Day and those catching up over on our YouTube channel. Talking Tech is a series celebrating girls and women in tech globally, being recorded between Girls in ICT Day 2020 and Girls in ICT Day 2022, an international day of celebration dedicated to encourage girls and young women to consider studies and careers in the growing field of information and communication technologies. This year, Girls in ICT Day was held on 22 April. The Talking Tech series is brought to you by three United Nations entities: the International Telecommunication Union ITU, UN International Computing Center UNICC, and the Office of the UN Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, and is in support of Equals, the global partnership for gender equality in the digital age. As you know, diversity and inclusion and social impact are all areas I am passionate about, so I'm delighted to now get talking tech with Rebecca and Judith. Welcome. Would you like to give us a rapid fire introduction to share how you fit into the world?
Sure, absolutely. So it's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Rebecca Gott. I am an IBM Distinguished Engineer, working in our Poughkeepsie, New York lab on computer technology and driving new solutions to our clients in the field.
Hi, I'm Judith. I'm a cybersecurity master student. I am also a zAmbassdor since 2020 and a zAmbassdor captain since last year. And I'm really glad to be here talking and getting to know more about what Rebecca has been doing in the field. And with that have said, Rebecca, I have some questions I would like you to answer so that the audience can get to know better what you've been doing.
Awesome.
My first question is, when and how did you realize you were an inspiring technologist? Tell us more about your career path and your current role.
Absolutely. So when I was in even middle school and high school, I was always drawn to doing the science fairs to think of some neat project, and I often would enter two projects, maybe one in biology, maybe one in physics, just because I thought all math and science was pretty interesting to me. And when I was in eighth grade, I was kind of fascinated with space travel. And I remember in eighth grade, I bought a book on the first 10 flights of the space shuttle. And it had the biographies and the backgrounds of all of the astronauts. And they all had, at that time, they all had military backgrounds, typically Air Force or Navy backgrounds. And so that kind of it made me think, okay, maybe I want to be an astronaut. And so I took an Air Force scholarship for my undergraduate college and studied electrical engineering. And quickly just really fell in love with electrical engineering, doing signal processing types of work, and wanted to stay on for graduate school, and was fortunate enough to receive a research assistantship from the Naval Research Labs, where I got to do a lot of work with multi-beam sonar systems and essentially collecting data to make bathymetric maps or depth maps of the ocean floor. So I finished my master's and then a PhD, and went on my active duty service for the U.S. Air Force. And in the Air Force, I kind of went from one medium, the ocean, to another medium, the atmosphere, where in the Air Force, I did a lot of work with global positioning systems. And this was, in the mid to late 1990s. And it was well before we had, in your phones, you had just a tiny GPS receiver. And those days they were larger. The technology, was still relatively novel. And we were working on integrating GPS onto U.S. aircraft and testing various types of antennas, and just a really fun mix of field testing, modeling work to understand the reception of the GPS receivers and things like that. So I really just fell in love with technology and working on solving real world problems through the delivery of innovative technology. And when I finished my Air Force tour and wanted to look for a career in the private sector, I interviewed with quite a few companies, and IBM was one of the few companies that had the depth and the breadth of technology that I thought would hold my interest. And so when I joined IBM, I actually joined in the high performance computing section, where essentially building supercomputers, because that was one of my interests at the time, and absolutely loved that. And it's kind of followed my interests as I progressed through my career, and had the fortunate opportunity to work on these great supercomputers early on. Went on to doing pre-silicon verification, and which is essentially trying to find all of the flaws in logic and a hardware design before you actually make those chips. Before you actually make the chips and make the wafers that end up going into the computer systems. And so that was I had the opportunity to do that on our IBM Power Systems, and then later IBMz, which is where I stayed for the bulk of my career, working on our IBMz and Linux One platforms, and worked on these low levels of the underlying hardware for actually 5 successive generations of the IBMz machines. And then as we're kind of looking at the next thing to do in my career, I thought some of the bigger challenges in chip design today, and this was maybe 2016 when I was making this decision, so it was a few years ago. Some of the bigger challenges is really understanding what function and features you want to build into that silicon. And so to get that insight, it's very important to understand the workloads that we're running on these amazing systems today. And so I was interested in learning more about some of the new and emerging workloads coming onto the IBMz and Linux One platforms, where blockchain at that time was just really kind of starting to take off. And so there was a lot of interest in blockchain and running blockchain on IBMz, and digital asset workloads, analytics workloads. And so I moved over to working at much higher levels of the stack with essentially these workloads running on IBMz and Linux One, looking at performance characteristics, looking at how we can harden, offer, I'll say, differentiation to those solutions through the security and the resiliency and the scalability that we build into that underlying hardware. So that took me all the way up to essentially surfacing some of these capabilities in our IBM cloud. And so that takes me to essentially the HyperProtect crypto services, which is the last thing I have stepped into here at IBM.
You had quite a journey. You mentioned you're really passionate about technology and the development of solving real world problems. So can you tell us a little bit more of your career nowadays, so like what you're working on nowadays?
Sure. Yes. Yeah. So currently I've been working on, I work quite closely with a number of clients, and also with surfacing capabilities that previously were only available for on-premises consumption. So clients that have their own IBMz or Linux One boxes within their own data centers. And as clients and enterprises have been interested in increased flexibility in terms of their deployment, public cloud and hybrid cloud has been an important part of that journey. Hybrid cloud because it gives the flexibility to run your workload on premises or in the cloud. One of the inhibitors or barriers for many clients wanting to move to cloud, interested in moving to cloud but hesitant to move to a public cloud, was around security. And so our HyperProtect crypto services offering is essentially a hardware security module as a service. And so this basically provides encryption capabilities that are extremely secure and hardened for basically for essentially the safest type of I'll say crypto consumption, and it's available in the public cloud. And with the advancements of better security in these public cloud environments, it enables clients to move workloads that they consider too critical or too sensitive to basically risk in that type of setting. And now our technology is basically enabling that.
Sounds fascinating. You mentioned words around the last two questions, words like blockchain and enable clients through your product development. How does it feel to work on such powerful platforms? Do you have a proudest moment you would like to share?
Oh, that's a tough one, because it's what I have found when you progress through your career, you have many milestones, and it's each milestone is something to be, I'll say, celebrated, something to feel proud of. But it's that kind of that collective journey of those achievements that I think I tend to really kind of, if I sit back and reflect, feel proud of, because it shows a trajectory of having, I'll say, the curiosity and sometimes the courage to step into different spaces that you may not have worked in previously, but you have the curiosity to want to find out more. And you have built up the confidence over time, knowing that you can, in fact, step into new spaces and get your bearings and actually be able to deliver new features and have some innovative ideas that actually enable new things to happen in the technology that you're building that didn't happen the previous year. And so I think it's that kind of, I'll say, almost lifelong journey. And so what I would encourage anyone listening is follow your interests and be willing to take those chances in terms of stepping into new spaces. And I actually, one of my side hobbies is riding horses. And I had a horseback riding instructor that would sometimes kind of yell, "You need to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable." And meaning what that means is, you need to basically have a little bit of the boldness to step into spaces, knowing you're going to feel uncomfortable initially. But then, as you get your bearings, you realize what you can do. And so one area, of basically, and it's new for you, but sometimes stepping into a new space is not only new for you, it's new for the industry. And so you mentioned the blockchain. So blockchain is, again, a quite new technology. It's still advancing and being developed, pretty rapidly. And so when you are able to get into an area of technology that in and of itself is still in its infancy, it can be make for a very exciting time, just because things can be so dynamic.
Considering the focus of the podcast right now, to inspire young women and girls interested in technology, what is one lesson you've learned as you progress professionally that you wish you knew sooner?
Sure. So one lesson that I've learned is work to understand what the people around you are working on, not just those closest to you, but those, sometimes those in areas that are a little bit in the periphery, and try to get an understanding of what they're doing, and be proactive in letting other people know what you're working on. And so I know sometimes, once I understand something, I kind of think, okay, well, if I understand it, everybody must understand it. But often that's not the case, and so what I have found is it's actually, it can lead to really good and fruitful conversations and collaborations by being proactive and letting other people know what you're working on. And if you kind of have an idea of what space they're working in, you can find sometimes areas of very interesting collaboration that wouldn't have, I'll say, spun up had you not been proactive in saying, hey, I'm working on this interesting problem in this space. Let me tell you about it. And then that can lead to, some new ideas, or that other person or other group of people being able to take some of your ideas and use it in a different way for something that they're working on. So that would be probably one thing I would advise is, let people know what you're working on, be proud of it, and socialize what you're working on, and look for those points of collaboration. So those would be some of my ideas. And so Judith, if I turn to you, as you're just embarking on, your journey here with your studies and your future career, how about you? When did you get into technology, and what inspired you to get into technology?
That's an interesting question, because I didn't start like really knowing that I wanted to get into technology itself.
Mm-hmm.
I loved having a computer around. It was something that I don't know, it was just really inside of me. I was the kind of person that whenever my friends had a problem with their computer, they came to me like, Judith, can you help me? And that was when I knew that perhaps technology was my path. Perhaps that's what I want to do in the future. But I never really started like coding or playing around with computers until I entered university, or perhaps the summer before university. Mm-hmm. But I knew it was always there. Like, it was always something that inside of me, I felt that was the career path I wanted to follow, something technological. So I kind of had like the feeling growing inside of me, and when the decision came to what do you want to study, what do you want to do in university, I was like, sure, let's go for computer science, because looks like what it's gonna make you more fulfilling, and you will get to know more about technology and perhaps get to develop that thing that you have inside of you. And that's pretty much how I got into it, and for the past 3 years and a half, that's what I've been following.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. I feel like there's that fire inside of you that is basically kind of looking for how it wants to get out, and technology is just the path for that. That's awesome. How about what have been some of the main milestones for you over this last year?
Well, first of all, finishing my bachelor's. That was the main milestone I started with in the year, and I achieved it. So I'm happy with that one.
That's huge.
Yeah. And then I think my milestone ever since I started my bachelor's was, no matter what, I want to do my master's in cybersecurity. And that's what I'm getting into right now. I just get it started with my master's, and my milestone right now, looking forward to the future, is finishing my master's and getting involved into the cybersecurity world, somehow getting into the business of it.
That's super. That's super. So I will tell you, everything I see, cybersecurity is a super important and hot area. And so I think your interests are kind of aligning with a really strong demand for people with those skills. And so is that what you at this point characterize as your dream career?
somehow, yeah, like I know I want to get involved into cybersecurity, and obviously cybersecurity is a really broad spectrum. You have like a lot of careers. And whenever someone asks me like which part of cybersec do you want to get involved in, my heart there, it's kind of divided in two. Because in some sort of way I want to get into pen testing and ethical hacking. Because I feel like there's so much more to check on it, to continue exploring in that area. But at the same time, I also want to get involved in digital forensics. So I'm kind of divided in both of them. Right now, I think perhaps and I started with one thing and then I switched to another one, because as you did, you just kept like evolving from one place to another, and you don't need to get stuck in just one place forever. So perhaps then I move on.
Okay, perfect. Exactly. And I would definitely encourage you to keep that mindset. If you start off with, the pen testing, ethical hacking, and then dive into other areas like digital forensics, you just end up having like this breadth of experience and expertise behind you. So that's I love hearing that. What would be your advice to your fellow young women and girls in technology?
Oof. My advice. Okay, as someone that started in technology pretty late somehow, I would say have the courage to go ahead no matter what. Because I remember my first ever class of computer science, more than half of the people were guys. And I was like, God, what am I doing here? Like, really, this is not for me. And I've been hearing a lot of stuff in the past 3 years of my bachelor's. I've had moments where I thought, this is not for me, I should quit. So my biggest advice is you are the only one that knows how much you value. You're the only one who knows where are your limits and where you can go to and what you really want in life. So don't hear what anyone else has to say about what you want to do. If it's constructive, okay, take that advice. But if it's not, don't let them pull you down. Just believe in yourself. Have the confidence to get out of your comfort zone. As you mentioned, sometimes being uncomfortable, it's what you should do. So go ahead and achieve that dream that you want to go for, and do it because of you want to, not because of what others are going to say, or if others think you're not going to be enough for it.
I think that is awesome advice, and I fully, I would advise the same, because it has to be your passion, your drive, and your basically your heart, your interest, your passion, and follow that, and let any other noise around you kind of fall to the wayside, and pursue your interests. Absolutely,
for sure. And before getting to the end of the session, I think there are people with a couple of questions, so perhaps we can get into those ones.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I have here one in the private chat that says, it's for you, Rebecca, and it says, who was your support system?
Oh, who was my support system? Yeah, that's a good question. So I always had a very supportive family, and so I'm married now. My husband's always been very supportive, which has been extremely helpful. And this is one thing. This is a great question, because this is one thing I didn't mention that is important to mention. It's important to find good mentors through your career. And sometimes if your management team may pair you with a mentor, or there may be some structure in the company that you're in or the school that you're at that pairs you with a mentor. If so, that's great. If not, seek out mentors proactively. Kind of look around, and this maybe gets to essentially understand what other people are doing, and then be, feel emboldened to look for mentors that can help you, use them as a sounding board. If you're hitting kind of decision points in your career. They've kind of been through those paths previously. They can offer good sounding advice, and they can help you navigate the structure of the enterprise organization that you're working within, be it a university or a big company. And so that would be my advice, is seek out mentors. At IBM, I've always been very fortunate to have awesome mentors. And it hasn't just been a single mentor. They've changed and evolved over the years, as I have too. And likewise, to turn that on its head a little bit, work to mentor other people, so as you progress, I'm always looking for technical talent, and reach out and feel again emboldened to mentor other people as you see them going through their academic journeys or career journeys, and offer the support to them, because it's true today. There's still many more men in the field of engineering and science and technology than women, and depending on the environment, it can be incredibly important to have maybe a female mentor, and so seek them out, and again offer to help others, kind of come up behind you.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the best advices, because you end up learning more about other people, and when you teach other people, sometimes that in just doing work, you learn a lot from people in general.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So, and you can learn a lot just through understanding their career journeys, and, because, everybody follows, different paths, and it kind of can open your eyes to what may be possible. So that you may not have considered previously. So.
Definitely. And with that, I'm going to end the session, unless you, Rebecca, have something else to say or to add to our audience.
So what I would maybe just add is, dive in. Technology is an incredibly great area to be in, because you can take different directions, and it's always changing. It's very dynamic, and so at least in my experience, I've never been bored because there's always something new to learn and work on. And so follow your interests, follow your passions, and enjoy what you do.
Thanks. For sure, it's really inspiring. And with this, I bring us to the end of today's episode of Talking Tech, Women and Girls in ICT. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for your time and value insight. I know I certainly learned a lot from today's session and what you had to say, and I hope our audience feels exactly the same as I do. Thanks a lot for everyone who has been here today.
Thank you so much, Judith, and I wish you all the best in your career. Thank you.